You are fighting a war you were never supposed to win. Every morning you wake up, clench your fists, and push against the current of your own existence. You strategize, you hustle, you force doors open that were never meant for you, and yet, the harder you push, the further away everything drifts. The river never fights to reach the ocean, and yet it always arrives. 25 centuries ago, a man walked away from civilization and left behind a single book. 81 verses, that was it. No army, no empire, no institution. And yet those words have outlasted every kingdom that ever tried to conquer the world by force. His name was Lao Tzu, and his message was so radical, so counterintuitive, that most people still cannot accept it. Stop forcing life. He said the secret to power is not to seize it. The secret to peace is not to chase it. The secret to living fully is to stop trying so hard. Today, we are going to unlock the ancient wisdom of the Tao Te Ching and discover why everything you have been taught about success, control, and strength might be completely wrong. The invisible sage. Here is the strangest thing about Lao Tzu. Nobody is entirely sure he even existed. Some scholars believe he was a single man, a keeper of archives in the Zhou dynasty, who grew so disgusted with the corruption around him that he simply left. Others think Lao Tzu was not one person at all, but a collection of voices, a tradition of wisdom passed down through generations. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. That opening line of the Tao Te Ching tells you everything. The deepest truth cannot be captured in words, it can only be lived. Legend says that as Lao Tzu rode his ox toward the western gate of China, a gatekeeper stopped him and begged him to write down his wisdom before disappearing forever. And so he did, 81 verses. Then he vanished into the mountains and was never seen again. No fame, no followers, no temple, just the words. And those words have been read by more human beings than almost any text in history. Invisible yet eternal. Why? Because they describe something you already know but have been trained to forget. But to understand what he was really saying, we need to understand the force he was fighting against. The Tao revealed. The word Tao literally means the way, but Lao Tzu did not mean a road or a method. He meant something far more unsettling. He meant the fundamental pattern underlying all of reality, the way water flows downhill, the way seasons change without being told, the way your heart beats without you commanding it. Tao. The Tao is not a god you pray to. It is not a philosophy you study. It is the operating system of the universe itself, and here is what makes it so radical. You cannot control it. You cannot outsmart it. You cannot force it to bend to your will. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Think about that for a moment. The entire natural world operates without anxiety, without deadlines, without 5-year plans. Trees do not stress about growing. Rivers do not panic about reaching the sea. If Lao Tzu's philosophy is opening something in you right now, hit like and subscribe to unlock more treasures from the vault. Because the next idea might change how you see everything. The Tao is the effortless intelligence behind all things, and we, in our desperate need to control everything, have cut ourselves off from it. But what does that actually look like in practice? Wu Wai. Wu Wai, two of the most misunderstood words in all of philosophy. Most people translate it as doing nothing. That is completely wrong. Wu Wai. Wu Wai means effortless action. It means acting in perfect harmony with the natural flow of things so that your effort feels like no effort at all. Think of a martial artist who redirects an opponent's force instead of meeting it head-on. Think of a jazz musician who stops thinking and lets the music play through them. Think of those rare moments in your own life when everything just clicked, when you were so aligned with what you were doing that time disappeared. That was Wu Wai, and you have felt it before. The problem is that modern society has declared war on Wu Wai. We celebrate the grind. We worship exhaustion as proof of dedication. We believe that if something is not painfully difficult, it must not be valuable. The sage acts without effort and teaches without words. Lao Tzu saw this pattern thousands of years ago. The more you force, the more resistance you create. The more you push, the more the world pushes back. And this is not just philosophy, it is physics. But understanding Wu Wai is only the beginning, because Lao Tzu had something even more shocking to say about strength. Water over stone. Lao Tzu was obsessed with water. He talked about it constantly, and the reason is devastatingly simple. Water is the softest thing in the world, and yet it carves through the hardest stone. It does not fight the rock. It does not rage against it. It simply flows around it, over it, through it, decade after decade, century after century, until the rock is gone and the water remains. Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water, yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. Now think about your own life. When you argue with someone, does forcing your opinion ever truly change their mind? When you grip a relationship too tightly, does it bring them closer or push them away? When you obsess over a goal with white-knuckled desperation, does the anxiety help you perform better? The answer is almost always no. Force creates resistance. Softness creates openings. This is not weakness. This is the most sophisticated form of power that exists. Soft defeats hard. The Grand Canyon was not carved by explosions. It was carved by patience. And Lao Tzu believed your life should work the same way, but this brings us to something even more uncomfortable. The empty vessel. Here is where Lao Tzu turns everything upside down. We spend our entire lives filling ourselves up. More knowledge, more possessions, more achievements, more status. We believe that the more we accumulate, the more complete we become. But what if fullness is actually the problem? Lao Tzu said that the usefulness of a cup comes from its emptiness. A room is useful because of the space inside it, not the walls. A window is valuable because of the opening, not the frame. 30 spokes share the hub of a wheel, yet it is its center of emptiness that makes it useful. This is not about being ignorant or having nothing. It is about creating space. Space for new ideas, space for other people, space for life to surprise you. Emptiness. When your mind is crammed full of opinions, you cannot hear wisdom. When your schedule is packed to the breaking point, you cannot receive inspiration. When your identity is so rigid that there is no room for growth, you have become the very prison you were trying to escape. The most creative people, the most adaptable leaders, the most peaceful souls all share one thing. They have learned to empty themselves. But Lao Tzu was not finished. His next teaching attacks the very thing our society worships most. Paradox of power. Every civilization in history has defined power the same way. Dominance, control, the ability to make others obey. Lao Tzu looked at all of this and said you have it completely backwards. True power is surrender. The greatest leaders, he said, are the ones nobody notices. When they finish their work, the people say, we did it ourselves. A leader is best when people barely know he exists. Think about the worst boss you ever had. They micromanaged, they demanded credit, they ruled through fear. Now think about the best mentor you ever had. They guided without controlling, they empowered without demanding gratitude, they led by stepping back. The difference is the distance between force and wisdom. Lao Tzu was not talking about passivity. He was talking about a power so profound that it does not need to announce itself. A tree does not need a billboard to prove it is strong. The sun does not need applause to keep shining. Real power grows from below, like roots. It does not impose from above, like a hammer, and this connects to perhaps Lao Tzu's most terrifying insight about the human condition. The trap of desire. You are running on a treadmill. You know you are. That promotion you chased for 3 years, you got it, and within 2 weeks you were already anxious about the next one. That relationship you thought would complete you, it did not. That purchase you were convinced would finally make you feel enough. The satisfaction lasted approximately 72 hours. Lao Tzu diagnosed this sickness 25 centuries ago. There is no greater disaster than not being content. He was not saying you should never want anything. He was saying that when desire controls you, you become a puppet on strings you cannot see. Every achievement becomes a new cage if you cannot sit still without one. The Tao Te Ching describes a state of being where you can enjoy things without needing them, where you can pursue goals without being destroyed by their absence, where success and failure are both imposters you greet with the same calm smile. Want without needing. This is not detachment from life, it is freedom within life. The difference between a person who enjoys the river and a person who tries to grab the water with their fists. But knowing this intellectually is easy. Living it, that requires something Lao Tzu called the return. The great return. Lao Tzu believed that every human being starts life in a state of natural perfection. Watch a baby. They breathe without thinking. They laugh without performance. They cry without shame. They exist in a state of pure, unfiltered being. Before the world taught you who to be, you already knew how to live. Then something happens. Society begins its work. You learn that some emotions are acceptable and others are not. You learn to perform, to compare, to compete. Layer by layer, your authentic self gets buried under expectations, fears, and borrowed identities. Return. The Tao Te Ching calls the journey back to your original nature, the return. It is not about going backward. It is about peeling away everything that was never truly yours to begin with. In the pursuit of learning, every day something is acquired. In the pursuit of Tao, every day something is dropped. Unlearning is harder than learning, but it is the only path to freedom. Every belief you adopted to fit in, every mask you wear to be accepted, every ambition that was planted in you by someone else. The return means examining all of it and having the courage to let go of what does not belong. This brings us to the deepest teaching of all. Strength in yielding. There's a story often associated with Lao Tzu. During a terrible storm, the mighty oak tree refuses to bend. It stands rigid, proud, defiant against the wind, and then it snaps. Right next to it, a thin bamboo stalk bows all the way to the ground. It bends so far it nearly touches the earth. And when the storm passes, the bamboo springs back up, completely unharmed. The stiff and rigid is the disciple of death, the soft and flexible is the disciple of life. Think about how you handle conflict. When someone criticizes you, do you stiffen and fight back, or do you bend, absorb, and return to your center? When life throws chaos at you, do you clench your fists and try to control every variable, or do you adapt like water finding a new path? Bend, do not break. The people who survive the worst circumstances are never the most aggressive. They are the most adaptable. The hard and stiff will be broken. The soft and supple will prevail. This is not about being a doormat. This is about being so rooted in your center that nothing can topple you because you have already learned to move with the wind. And this leads us to the final revelation. Let life flow. Here is the truth Lao Tzu left us with. Everything you are desperately trying to hold onto is already leaving, and everything you are desperately trying to reach is already on its way. The universe has its own timing, and it does not consult your plans. You cannot force a flower to bloom by pulling its petals open. You cannot make someone love you by demanding it. You cannot find peace by waging war against your own restlessness. Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them, that only creates sorrow. The Tao Te Ching is not asking you to give up. It is asking you to give in. Give in to the intelligence that makes your heart beat without instruction. Give in to the wisdom that turns seeds into forests without a blueprint. Trust the flow. You were born knowing how to do this. Before the world convinced you that you had to fight for every breath, you already knew how to simply breathe. The most revolutionary act in the modern world is to stop forcing and start flowing. Lao Tzu walked through that western gate and disappeared into the mountains, leaving behind only 81 verses. But in those verses lies a truth that every generation rediscovers. The secret was never about doing more. It was always about being more. 25 centuries ago, a man saw that humanity was drowning in its own effort. He watched empires rise and fall, armies march and crumble, ambitions burn bright and turn to ash. And he understood something that most of us still refuse to accept. The harder you grip life, the faster it slips through your fingers. Lao Tzu did not leave us a religion. He did not leave us rules. He left us a mirror. And when you look into it honestly, you see every place where you have been fighting against the current of your own existence, every forced conversation, every controlled outcome, every white-knuckled attempt to make reality bend to your will. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Today, right now, you have a choice. You can keep pushing, or you can take a breath, unclench your fists, and let the river carry you where it was always going to take you. Stop forcing, start flowing. If you made it this far, comment WWEI to prove you are among those who understand that the greatest strength is knowing when to let go. The wisdom of the ages is yours. Use it well. If this unlocked something in you, subscribe for more.